Welcome back, everybody, to the Renaissance Retro Podcast. My name is Robert, and I'm joined again by my co-host, Karol.
Hello, everyone. Today, we are discussing game jams, their importance to junior developers, and also what it's like to host a jam.
We'll be joined by Tronimal, German music producer and host of the recent Game Boy Showdown. Thank you for joining us today. Congratulations on the successful game jam. It was great. I think everybody enjoyed it. So would you like to introduce yourself for everybody listening?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Tronimal. I'm doing Game Boy music for many years. I started in 2008. And quite recently, I started doing a little bit more Game Boy game-based stuff. So still a lot of music, but also I tried some other stuff as well. And I tried a lot of different options in Game Boy Dev, like Assembler and GBDK and GB Studio and all that stuff. I will come to the game jam point. So I wanted to host a game jam for a longer time, but I usually come from the demo scene. So they do these competitions all the time, but it is quite different from game jams.
By demo, do you mean the music side, right? Music competitions, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
Is that what demo
means? Scene? No. Demo scene is back in the days when people cracked software, so games and stuff, they put little intros, self-made intros, like homebrew intros in front of this. This was called intros. And out of this developed a larger thing that was called demos. So it's not a demo game like a game that only has one level and has to be completed in the future. It's an artistic thing. So people do videos, music. Usually they try to work with very minimalistic setups. So let's say on PC, you only have 4K kilobytes of storage for the whole video with music and stuff. So they limit themselves, and usually there are a lot of people working with old hardware. So basically, a lot of Amiga users are in there, for example. Yeah, I wanted to find something in between the usual game jam thing and the demo scene. But as I worked on it, the more it became like a game jam thing. I adapted quite a lot. So, yeah.
So you've said that you obviously entered sort of the Game Boy scene in 2008. Could you maybe describe in a bit more detail some projects that you've worked on before?
I did maybe 10 LPs, just Game Boy music. And then there was one thing in between. I tried to make a Game Boy cartridge. That was in 2016, I think, if I remember correctly. The only tools that I could find for making music were developed to be used in assembler. So I had to write everything around the music in assembler, which was super painful. Yeah, the last, say, year and a half, 2 years, something like that, since I moved home. I worked on a few games. I made the soundtrack for Digital Retro Park, which is a museum. They tried to make a virtual museum tour because they were closed because of COVID. And I made a song for a game jam. I made music for In the Dark by Parasitic and Gumpy Function, for Posty, for this game jam, for the new game by Gumpy Function as well. This super jacked up tomato face Johnson, really short name. I made a remix. Actually, a friend of mine did music for this game, and I made a remix for half of the levels. So it's in half of the game now. And there's so many stuff I did in the last years, I can't even put it on a list in my head.
What has sort of originally attracted you to Game Boy and to make music and now other projects on it?
Yeah, I did music before I came to the so-called chiptune or chip music scene. So I made music. I started playing bass guitar, and I switched to using a sampler. So a hardware sampler, not it's digital sampling, but with a hardware machine. And I started searching for old school synth sound quite a lot. And my cousin just wrote me in 2008 via chat on MySpace. That was a thing back then. Yo, I found a band. They are making music with Game Boys. And I was like, yeah, fool yourself. Just leave me alone. I'm working. And he like wrote it again and again, like constantly, like over like half an hour or something. And then I was like, oh, I think he's really serious about that. And I was a really huge fan of the Game Boy when I was a child. So he knew that. And there are these two connections. So searching for this electronic old school sound and being a Game Boy fan, obviously, then yeah, he told me, and I abandoned all my projects like a week later. There are still unreleased albums and stuff that I have. And I ordered old school LSDJ 1.1. We are now at, I don't know, I can't even count, like 8, 9, I don't know, like dozens of new versions, and really old version of Nanoloop. And I just abandoned everything except of like, I think my drum pad and some things, because when I started, I played everything live. So I just made a bass line on Nanoloop, let's say, and then I played live drums on a drum pad, and did a lot of live gigs. So I was actually working as a musician, as a live musician, and not as a game composer or something like that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, how has it been composing music for games rather than just for the sake of music?
Yeah, it's quite different because I usually do like kind of brutal hard music, and I played in a lot of techno clubs, and I can't do that on many games. You know, most of the games that just won't fit. But I'm quite picky when it comes to like working on games, because I usually don't care much about making money with that. So if I really like the project, then I try to help out. And if I think it doesn't fit my usual style, then I won't do it, because it will just become like a shitty piece of music. And then they have to use it in the game. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, but it's different, because what is really actually a great thing for games is like if you have a good song, like a main theme, and you like come back to it like with little alternate versions with throughout the game, and you will never do that usually in live music. And this is really common in games, for example. And you have to have like parts where you maybe leave out a track completely empty, so you can do the sound effects without interrupting the music. You wouldn't do that in live music. I did music that wouldn't even run while a game is playing, because the music alone would slow down the machine. So yeah, there are many things that differ a bit, but you still have to know the hardware limitations and things like that. So it's really helpful if you did one of the other before.
Of course, yeah. Obviously, I wanted to talk about game jamming in this podcast. I'm glad we talked about music, though. Yeah, so I think game jamming is extremely important. Like when I started making GB Studio games, it was always as part of a jam, and like the deadline was always a great motivator to get things done. So, you know, what made you want to host the Game Boy Jam? You said obviously it started as something slightly different, but what's your opinions on the importance of game jamming?
I think the largest impact had the GB Compo 21, because I was really happy that something was happening like this, because it was not like a crappy 3-day jam from someone that just like put it on itch, or like there is this GB Jam quite a long time, but it's like you have to make a game in the style. You don't have to actually make a ROM. That always bothered me. So there was this GB Compo, and I read through the rules, and I thought about the jury, like the judges, and I was like, okay, I wouldn't agree on this. I wouldn't agree on that. I would do this differently. And because of the demo scene stuff that I experienced. So I was like, you could do this totally different, but not crappy. So maybe in a unique way that is actually worth making it. My first idea actually was like hosting an art jam. So like really like a demo scene event, but as a jam. But I think that's not what a lot of people would do and enjoy. Maybe I will do it like a spin-off one day or something like that. And I didn't want to split it too much. So I didn't want to have like 20 categories or something like that. Yeah. So that's why I thought about like making my own jam.
What was it like being on the opposite side of it, being the host, the organizer? What was sort of the hardest part for you?
I was really surprised by one thing, because usually if I take part in a game jam, I get really hyped at the end of the developing phase. So to see the other things, stuff like that. And I was kind of worried that this wouldn't happen as a host, but it's insane. You're like so nervous to check this stuff out, and it's really cool. You have to think about different things than if you take part. If you take part, you just take part and you try to finish within a week, let's say, or whatever it's the game jam is running. But I had to think about totally different things. I had to think about the setup. So like the concept of the jam, like the theme, the rules, voting criteria, the timing, because I actually took a holiday to make this happen. I had to think about promotion, like where to talk about it, put it, where to send it over Twitter, over Discord, stuff like that. And about the hosting. So what happens if somebody cheats? What happens if somebody puts in a thing against the rules? How much time do I need was like the thing that I thought of before, like to have enough time to react if something happens that is not like how I want it to be. So the good thing was like nobody could see the entries before the actual making period was over. So I could like check the games in advance and see if there's any like copyright violation or rule violation and stuff like that. So it's a totally different thing, but you get as excited as you would like be, what's the word?
Participant?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So is it just you? Was it a one-man team? Was it everything up to you? Or have you worked with multiple people on this? Because it seems like it's a lot of work.
It was just me. It's still not over actually, because the voting was 2 weeks and now it's like shipping and stuff. The first 3 places won Game Boy cartridges. So I had to print stickers and stuff, and I couldn't do that in advance. So I had to wait for it. I got them like, I think 2 days ago or something. So it's really going to an end now. I know from the GB Compo team, it took them like a year or something to sort everything. It was just me, yes, but there was a sponsor, a friend of mine, Alex, who runs a DMG page. It's a German blog about Game Boy games mostly, and there were like 2 or 3 people that told me like if it gets like too much, we can help with this or that. Like one guy wanted to run a Discord server, and another one told me like, yeah, next year I want to be a sponsor. Maybe if you need help this year, we can talk about it and stuff like that. But I did it on my own. It was like there was a reason that I took holidays, because I didn't know what to expect, because that was my first game jam as a host. But next time I will do this definitely different with taking the holidays. I will take this a little bit later, because you don't really need much time when the game jam starts. You need most of the time shortly before it ends, because then the whole questions are coming in, like, can I do this? Can I do that? And when the voting starts, because then I wanted to stream on Twitch every game and stuff like that. So I needed a lot of time, but my holiday was kind of over at that point. So I will like shift it like half a week or a week next time.
You've obviously kind of talked about the steps you took.
Yes.
And it was obviously based on the GB Compo and a bit of like learning what you would have wanted to do differently. But what advice would you give to both participants and also people wanting to make their own game jams?
Yeah, for game jam people, I would mainly ask myself what would be a good experience if you would be a participant. So, and can you make it like a unique experience rather than running the X amount same jam as there already is? And what will you do if this jam gets really big or ends up being really small? Like if there are only 2 people taking part, or if there are like 500 people taking part, because you will have a lot amount of work if it blows up, and that can happen. Yeah, that can really happen. So you got to think about this stuff before. And as taking part in a game jam, that's like in every game jam that runs a short amount of time, like keep it like small scope. So try to make like, focus on one mechanic for the game and make that good. Make it really easily accessible for the other people that are voting, because most of the people are playing a lot of games in a short amount of time, and they will not be patient. They will rush through it. So they won't play it to the end. Maybe if they don't understand it right away, they will just quit it and go to the next game. They maybe not see if you have like a plot twist in a story or something, they might not even see it. Yeah. So there's this different, making a game jam game to win is really different from making just a good game that people should play, would play in the end.
That's a really great point. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't have time. So even I took the time to play every game like twice, and I still like, if I saw like a huge intro or something, I was kind of like, I really wanted to skip it because I thought like, yeah, there are 40 other games that I have to play. So don't show me like 5-minute intro. I enjoy an intro if I have the time to play it, but not if I want to rush through 40 entries or something like that.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's a bigger game jam, I took part in Brecky's game jam. There were like thousands of people, and you can't, even if you rush, you have no chance to play all the games. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here it was okay, like 40 games you can make it, but yeah, it's still hard. And if I remember the GB Compo, I think it was around 100 games or something. That was really hard to play through them all.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think anyone listening who is participating in a game jam should definitely take that to heart, knowing that their game will need to be played quickly, right? If that is like the number one thing, right?
Yeah, if you want to win.
If you want to win, that's very true. But otherwise,
if you want to take part to make friends or something.
Very true, very true.
Or to learn something,
very true.
Or learn a new mechanic, then you don't really have to care about this.
Yeah, that's very true. When I was making my first games, I wasn't even thinking about the winning. I was just thinking about finishing the game.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people probably think like that. I think only once you get to the higher levels where, you know, you're very quick at making games and your ideas can come out onto or into the game engine as quickly as possible. That's when I guess those real considerations should be taken place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing it from your perspective. I would love to host a game jam one day, but knowing how much work it is, I might not.
Yeah, keep it small, like, or make it very specific, like make the room very specific or whatever. So then you like won't have like 1,000 people doing it.
Very true.
Alone, like making it Game Boy only, I was sure that it wouldn't like blow up like totally crazy. I actually thought like if there were under 10 people like taking part in the end, I will make the game myself as well. And if it's more than that, I won't. So I didn't. And I was like very happy not to do this beside like being the host. But if there were only like 10 people, then being a host would not be much work. So that would have been okay.
So was it 40 games in total? Did that surprise you, or was that like your sweet spot? Did you expect it that many, or?
Oh, that's funny, actually. No, when Alex, my friend Alex from DMG Page asked me about being a sponsor, that was in very, very early when I started making the game jam. I think it wasn't even hosted. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to sponsor because I don't know if there will be more than 5 people.
Yeah.
You know? So I waited and waited with like replying till I saw like, oh, it's getting bigger and bigger. And then we're talking like, oh, there are already like, I don't know, 20 people, 30 people like joined, not making a game actually, but joined. And I was like, okay, it's getting all right. We can do it. Like, and I had already a Game Boy built, and I have these tons of flash cartridges, self-built China things, everything. So I thought like, okay, I can give that as a price, but I need like stickers and stuff, and I don't have any more money for that. So if you want to be a sponsor, you want to pay for the stickers. We make them really high quality, so it will be like an even amount, and I will pay like just for the Game Boy, and he just sent it a little bit more for the shipping. So he paid the shipping and stuff. And then itch.io featured the jam after we made this, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. But then I was like really unsure if these people would really take part, because that was people from itch and not from the Game Boy scene. So there were a few people that actually made their first Game Boy game and that didn't do before and afterwards now another Game Boy game. So I bet these were people from itch directly. But I thought like, okay, this will shift like the ratio from people taking part, people joined and people making an entry, and that definitely happened. And I also had to kick like 2 projects that were absolutely not Game Boy, not made for the jam, and I didn't even.
Yeah, there was one.
I just kicked them, and then there was like sadly some rule bending as well in the jam. So next year I will make it much more specific, and because I don't really mind, but what if a really rule-bent entry wins?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
it would feel so shitty for me and maybe for the other people that take part in the jam as well.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. And this is the thing in the demo scene, for example. There is nothing like remixing, sampling, demaking of stuff is allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're always sure then there's no copyright violation. There are no problems at all. And that's a thing that I tried to implement in the jam. But there were still some like gray areas you could like find. And I have to make this more specific next time. So I even had a discussion on the forums with a person that actually asked about like demaking. Is it not kind of assets thing? And I can use assets. So can't I use make a fan game and la. And we talked about it. And I said like, if you don't have the permission to use these assets, then it's copyright violation. It's that simple. So if you ask these people, then you can use it as assets. And then he like took stuff from Zelda. And I thought, yeah, that's not correct. And I told that on my live stream. And he actually wrote me and said, yeah, that's right. Actually, I thought about it. You're absolutely right. And we talked about it before. If I win, because that was the thing that I was concerned about, like not really that he will win, but what happens if he will win. And he said, like, if I will win, I will not take the prize. And I was like, okay, fine, then we'll just let it in. That's okay. That's cool.
That's nice.
And he wanted to continue working on it and change the problematic stuff. Actually, he told me. So that was kind of cool as well, because I'm not really a fan of copyright violation.
I don't think any creator really is.
Yeah, I don't know. Many people do this and don't really think about it, I think. But
yeah, I think that might be the problem.
If your stuff would have been taken, you're not like Nintendo or something like super famous, known in the whole world, but if your stuff would be taken by someone and you don't like the product, especially if you don't like the product that is made, you would be super angry, I guess. So everybody would be super angry. And so I don't really care if it's a big company or a small company that you're like taking stuff off. Like so many people like using the Game Boy font in their box designs, for example. Absolutely not allowed, because I talked to Nintendo about this because I wanted to do this in 2016. So I actually wrote to Nintendo and asked a lot of stuff about trademark stuff and can I use this and how can we make this usable, and just got a big no, you can't, but you can, of course, make your own game or music disc in that case, and you can sell it, but you have to get rid of all the branding. And I even wrote like it's not licensed by Nintendo on the box, so that is really clear. I wouldn't have to do that, but yeah, I'm not a fan of this, so that's why I want to keep it out of the jam as well.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you talked about getting sponsored, and you also talked about how they would pay for some things. We would like to know, how would being sponsored change how you conduct the jam? For example, next year, if you had more sponsors, what would change?
Depends on who is like sponsoring. There are some people that just throw money in. I know of 3 people that want to be sponsors already, and 2 of them would just throw money at me and let me decide, but I will decide together with them. Like DMG Page would also just have given me an amount of money. I can't remember actually what was the first thing we talked about, but then we were thinking about, okay, but what can we do? Should we like give money to the people, or should we like get a gift card for them for like, say, retro modding or inside gadgets or something that is really helpful for making Game Boy games? Or should we like make merch, posters, stickers, whatever? And ideally I would do all of this and split it up, but I have to really I have to do research on how it is if you give real money away, because I think that could be problematic if people are too young or maybe in certain areas of the world and stuff. So yeah, sending out prizes a little bit easier, I guess. And if it gets too big, I know that from the GB Compo team, then you have to take care of a lot of stuff, like a company, like taxes and stuff, because you're like giving out like, say, over $1,000 or $2,000 or something. Then it gets to another new level, and I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Maybe Ferrante Crafts. want to join, and I think he's doing his own cartridges, so maybe he can just make this thing that I did this time, like the first 3 people get a cartridge, or maybe get 10 cards or whatever. I don't know. I didn't really talk to him. He just said, I want to do this, and I was like, okay, let's talk when I set it up. And not now, because I can't really think about what will be next year.
Of course, yeah.
It will just get a little bit bigger, I think, and a little bit more strict. So more entries will be kicked.
You kind of answered all our questions, I feel like. Is there anything else you want to add?
I wrote down something that surprised me a lot about the jam entries, and that was like the quality. And there were so great concepts. There was something that I didn't know about. This game Wormhole was made with GBSDK. It's an engine I never heard of before. I thought it was a typo and it was GBDK, but no, it wasn't. Some graphics and music was insanely good. And for a 7-day jam, that really blew me away. I wouldn't be able to do that. So Rumblefest had insane music. Wormhole had insane music, and the graphics. I was totally surprised by Midterm Moments. I think you talked about this as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did some music myself. That was cool. What was also crazy was like people were so friendly. I had to write to a lot of people, and it was insanely friendly. I know that from game jams as taken part, but that just because it was so many people, that was insane. Even like if I talked about rule bending and stuff, I only got one answer that I thought like, and that was like shitty. Everything else was really cool. And also the thing, like when I talked about it in the stream, that I'm not really cool with this one entry that this guy immediately wrote to me like, okay, I won't take the price. I get the point. So that's cool.
Maybe could you just summarize, I would say, like top 3 or top 5 lessons that you took from hosting it maybe into next year?
Yeah, that's I wrote it down somewhere, but so yeah, the thing is like I have something here as well. I'm still thinking about 7 or 10 days, not longer, because people will not be more calm about it. If it gets longer, they will just push them even more. And I think, and 7 days are really exhausting if you're constantly working on a game, on a game, and that won't get better unless you really stretch it, like to a month or 2 or something. But I don't want to be a host of a jam that big. What I think was really important is keep it accessible. But I picked a pretty open theme, right? So I just picked, what was it? Time. Yeah. And so you can make so many different things with this. So if I would have written like platformer with shooting, at the theme, so it would be like pretty obvious what to do, but you won't have much room. So I think even if you prepared something in advance, you could still make the theme like fit. That was important to me. Mostly also that not only GB Studio users can take part in the jam, because if you are going for GBDK, RGBDS, WALDX or whatever, you will it will take you so long to set up the game. You can't just like start, because you actually have to code a lot. So I thought that would be like a good thing, so they can use some templates still, because this theme is open. I want to improve promotion. Definitely, maybe with a video or something, or talk to Itch a little bit sooner, so they will feature it right away and use their forums, which I didn't do. I think it's a really good place also. And yeah, upgrade like on sponsors and prices, and let sponsors be able to vote. I think that's pretty important to me as well. Not the only people that vote, still submitters have to vote. That's a demo scene thing as well. If you are on a demo party, you can vote. If not, you can't vote. So these are all people that know how to make games and that know about techniques and stuff. And I think that's a good point. So to be able to vote and to have a nice outcome. Otherwise, if everybody could vote, maybe the most known people would just win because he's the most known people and stuff like that.
I think probably everybody who saw the top 5 or even top 10 were probably surprised, because it's like almost like a random amalgamation of everybody's averages, and not everybody played every game. So it's almost So it's a weird kind of thing, isn't it?
But it's like on average, it was around 20 ratings, which is like exactly half of the entries. So it's pretty. It's a lot. I didn't think that so many ratings would be done.
Yeah, I think there were more votes per game than normal on other things, which was pretty impressive. Yeah. So obviously our final question would be, what are your top 3 Game Boy games?
I thought you asked like the last times, like what would you take with you on
a desert island? If you had unlimited battery in a Game Boy,
I would take a flash card.
Nice. Put 100 games on.
Yeah.
Nice.
So actually,
top 100 games.
it would differ kind of. So if I would really take something with me that I own, I have a lot of games. I would take a GB memory multi-card. You can put 7 games on it, so it's not like insane like these SD card flash things or something. I would take LSDJ with me to be able to make music.
Yeah.
And the Game Boy camera. Mm-hmm. And then because maybe I can never leave, I guess that's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on this island, so I will put it on a container when I'm old with 30 really good pictures on it, and hope somebody would find it.
Oh. That's really nice. That's really nice. Yeah.
If it's about the best games, like
I like your answer more.
That will keep me entertained, to have the camera and to be able to make music and stuff. That's cool. But if I would be alone, I would probably pick like Super Mario Land, Kirby's Dream Land. No, Kirby's Pinball Land. Sorry, not Kirby's Dream Land. It's too easy. And maybe Speedball 2, which is insanely good, but nobody knows it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like handball. Handball, is that a name in English?
I think so.
Yeah, handball.
Handball in the future with iron balls, so you can smack, like, it's really brutal, but it's also a manager. You can play the games or not if you like. You can, if not, they're not. But you can like build up your team, and they are all mutants and cyborgs, so you could like change the stats and stuff. It's really cool.
That does sound good. Yeah,
sounds really cool. Yeah.
It's actually, I think it was an Amiga game originally by Bitmap Brothers. They were kind of well known in the 90s and in the 80s, I guess. And there is a Game Boy port that is still really good. Yeah, there are 3 more games or 4 that I would pick to take. I own over 300 games, so that's hard to pick and hard to decide. There is this game called Dyna Blaster here in Europe. It's called Bomberman GB, I think, in Japan, and Atomic Punk in the US. That's really weird. It's just Bomberman, but it has kind of a huge story mode also. So you can play it against each other, like the normal Bomberman experience that everybody knows, but you can also walk through maps that are larger than one screen and have different enemies and stuff. And if you like do mistakes, then new enemies will spawn and stuff like that. So that's really cool. And yeah, of course, there are also games I'm nostalgic about that I would pick, but it's already too much. Except I picked the GB memory. I can take 7 games. So I would take Balloon Kid with me and Motocross Maniacs. And maybe Tetris or Tetris DX. I'm really undecided.
Yeah, I love Tetris.
Because I like Tetris, the original Game Boy Tetris, but the DX version has this multiplayer against computer.
That AI thing, I always find it really hard. Are you good at the against the computer one?
I don't think so. I'm not good at Tetris. I just enjoy it.
I swear I always lose. I've only ever won once against the AI.
I'm good at 2-player. Actually, I did some tournaments, some official Tetris tournaments. I'm kind of good in 2-player mode, as long as I don't meet 3 of people I really know well from Germany. They are constantly training Tetris for years, every week, twice, and they could go to bed while they're winning against you. Like, it's insane. They have such a knowledge about like the next. They think like in chess, the next 4 or 5 things. What if this block now appears? Then I do this, and if this comes, and that's insane. I just react on the block that I see, and maybe on the next one that is in the preview window. But they are just like insane. That's really cool, really impressive, actually.
That was Tronimal, the host of the Game Boy Showdown.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to thank my patrons. If you're watching on YouTube, they'll be up on screen right now.
You can also find the Renaissance Retro podcast on Spotify and Google Podcasts.
We always enjoy reading your comments, so let us know what you thought and what you'd like to see next.
And that's all for today. Thank you for listening.